after you watch this one, of course. I will link it down below. It's all about proper ballet attire and overall classroom etiquette that every dancer should know. So go check that out if you missed that one. In today's video, we'll delve into more of the technical aspects of ballet. We'll discuss proper body placement, leg and foot alignment, and we'll go over the main positions of the feet, the arms, and as always, I'll give you guys some great tips to think about along the way. Before we jump in, I wanted to clear something up that most people just aren't aware of. Now, as an adult, when you go take an open ballet class, or any genre of dance for that matter, a beginner class doesn't mean absolute beginner. In fact, beginner classes often suggest that you have at least 1 or even 2 years of experience. You should have a basic understanding of overall body placement, basic positions, basic steps, terminology. Now, does this mean that if you are an absolute beginner that you can't take a beginner class? No, of course not. You can absolutely take a beginner class, but just know that the class will move at a decent pace and it may be slightly overwhelming. But honestly, guys, if you go in with a good positive attitude and a good positive mindset and you just try to follow along as best you can, I'm sure you guys will have an amazing time and you'll definitely learn a lot in the process. Now, if you don't want to put yourself in a potentially uncomfortable situation, that's perfectly okay. Some schools actually offer absolute beginner ballet workshops in which they start completely from scratch. So if you are an absolute beginner, that would obviously be the best way to go. Now, unfortunately, these classes aren't always easy to find and they're not always offered, so that's just another reason why I wanted to create this Ballet 101 series for all of you. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know, catch you up to speed, so if you are an absolute beginner, you'll have enough knowledge to dive into a beginner class comfortably. Okay guys, enough chit chat, let's get on our feet and let's get started. This is so important. You really should not step foot into a ballet class, a beginner ballet class, unless you have a basic understanding of this body placement. So there's a lot going on. Try not to get overwhelmed. We'll go through this nice and slowly so you guys can take mental notes or even actual notes if you want to. All right? So I'm going to just stand in a parallel leg position. Now, one of the most important things that you want to think about is this belly button. And this is something that I say all the time in my Pilates class. You want to take this belly button and you want to pull it in and up. That way you're always activating your abdominals. Do you want to know why every ballerina has a six-pack? That's why, because they are constantly engaging in their core, all right? So that belly button is going whoop, in and up, so you have a nice lift in the abdominals. The tailbone is going straight down. So we don't want the back to arch, we don't want the ribs to stick out, we don't want the butt to stick out, okay? That tailbone is dropping straight down to the floor. Now, don't get confused. This doesn't mean that I want you tucked under, right? So we don't want to be tucked, we don't want to be back, we're straight down, yeah? Neutral spine, neutral pelvis, all right guys? Now, the chest is always open and wide, and we're always thinking of pushing those shoulders down, okay? It's a very common mistake to take tension in the upper body. I totally understand, but we just have to make sure that we're always maintaining this space between our shoulders and our ears. Look at all this space, guys, right? That's a lot of space. So no matter what you're doing with your arms and your upper body, you're always maintaining this space, nice long neck. Okay, guys? So we're pushing those shoulders down and we're lifting up through the crown of the head like a puppet. All right, everyone? Now, as I said earlier, I'm standing in this parallel leg position. We should be able to draw a straight line from those hips through the center of the leg, through the center of the knee, through the center of the ankle, all the way down to the this is starting to get into leg alignment. So important, all right? But before we get into that, I'm going to show you guys how you can find your turnout. A lot of people force their turnout and they do this. They place their feet, they try to make that perfect straight line, and their hips may not necessarily be able to support that. So what does it do, guys? It puts so much pressure on your poor little knees, and it's just not a good way to go, okay? So this is how you find your turnout the right way, okay? And this is something that I do in my ballet class all the time. This is in my very first combination that we do at the bar when we warm up. I tell everyone to stand with their feet parallel. Of course, we're thinking about that posture, right? Belly button in and up, chest is open and wide, shoulders down, lifting up through the crown of the head. Legs are nice and lengthened, tailbone down to the floor, okay? Then what I say is everyone flex your feet. So keeping the heels on the floor, I have everyone flex their feet up. Then, this is the most important part, without sticking your butt out. Without sticking your butt out, you're going to externally rotate from your hip joints. And this is how you find your turnout, okay? Because it's really coming from the hip and you're not forcing your feet to turn out more than your hips can support, okay? So we'll do that one more time, standing up nice and tall in our parallel position. Flex those feet up from the hip joint, externally rotate the leg without sticking the butt out, and then the feet go down. There's how you find your best turnout. Now, back in my professional dancing days, I probably had better turnout. I don't quite have a perfect line, 180-degree turnout. Guess what, guys? That's okay. It's totally fine. If your turnout is here, that's totally fine. It's better to work smart than to try to force your turnout, because I guarantee you're probably going to end up with some sort of injury that you don't want, okay? So don't force that turnout. Turnout always happens from the hips. Your hips support your knees, which then support the ankle and support the feet, okay? Now, let me go back to this one more time, and I want to show you guys the wrong way, and watch what happens. If I flex my feet up and I stick my butt out, which is wrong, I'm going to be able to turn out my legs so much more because I'm getting into it the wrong way. And then when I try to fix myself, it doesn't feel so good because I'm forcing my turnout, okay? So, when you're in this parallel leg position, remember, you flex those feet up, don't stick out your butt, right? Externally rotate from the hips. That's how you find your true turnout, and this is the turnout that you should work in the entire ballet class. Okay, guys? All right, let's move on to the next thing. Here we go. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about our leg alignment. So I'm going to, like I did before, I'm going to start in that parallel leg position, flex up my feet, externally rotate from the hips, and here is my first position. Okay, guys? Now, everything is stacked. My shoulders are stacked right on top of my hips. My external rotation is coming from my hips, which then support my knees and my ankle and my feet. Okay? So that's where we want to be. I'm just going to put my hand on the hip for the time being, and I'm going to show you a tendu to the front. So I'm going to slide my foot out. Here's my tendu to the front. Now notice, both of my kneecaps are always facing out to the side. I didn't make this up, guys. I'm sorry to tell you, but everything in ballet is turned out, okay? With maybe the exception of a little warm-up that you may do in the beginning of class in a parallel leg position, okay? But everything else is turned out. So a lot of people get confused. Which way does my leg go? Well, just think, your kneecaps, both of them, should always be facing out, yeah? So when I tendu to the front, I'm going to maintain that beautiful external rotation, and I'm going to point my toe, again, both kneecaps out to the side. So we don't want this to happen, right? We're going to keep that leg beautifully turned out and close it back into first. Now, the same rule applies when you tendu to the back. Kneecaps are facing out to the side. As I point my toes behind, same thing. I keep my kneecap out to the side. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it turned out, okay? Now, the side is a little trickier. And the reason is, a lot of people think that any sort of position to the side has to be perfectly to the side. But guess what, guys? It doesn't. Unless you have perfect 180-degree rotation, your leg is not going to be perfectly out to the side. So what I want you to do is this. Remember that straight line that we talked about when we were in the parallel leg position? Well, it's the same thing now. I should be able to draw a straight line down through the center of my leg, through the center of my knee, through the center of my ankle, and out through the center of my toes. If I keep that line going on the floor, that is the exact same line that I'm going to tendu to the side, okay? I'm not going to take it all the way back here. I'm going to keep it in line with my turnout. So you're always working within your range, and that is probably the most important thing. And when you work within your range, you're able to access all of your turnout, yeah? If this is my first, in fact, I'll exaggerate it even more. Let's say this is my first, right? Okay, it's not bad, it's my first, that's all I got, there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make sense to tendu your leg to the side out here, right? Because look what happens to the leg. Because my leg is open more than my hips can support, my leg is going to turn in. And I can't access my full turnout. So if this is my first position, again, I draw that straight line down the center of my leg, out through the center of my foot, down onto the floor. My tendu to the side is going to be right here. And that way my kneecap is facing out to the side and not to the wall in front of me. Okay, guys? I know that's a lot of information, but it's so useful. So I really, really hope you guys absorb all these tips because they will really, really help you in the end, and they will also prevent injuries, which is so important in dance. Okay? Let's move on to the next thing. Here we go, guys. All right, everyone. So let's talk about the main positions of the feet. Well, we just talked about two. So this position right here, also known as a parallel leg position, in ballet, it's referred to as sixth position. Obviously, this position is not really used because everything in ballet is turned out. So just know that if your dance teacher says, all right, class, get into sixth position, you know what it is. That means a parallel leg position, okay? Now, we're going to flex up those feet again, rotate to first without sticking the butt. We talked about this one. This is called first position, okay? The heels are together, the toes are out to the side, the kneecaps are out to the side, and we're using our external rotation working within our range. All right, everyone? Now, if we take this first position and we just make it a little bit wider, it becomes second position. Same concept, guys. Make sure you're working within your external rotation range. Don't force those feet to turn out more. Puts pressure on the knees, okay? So, coming from the hip, that's where your turnout originates from. Round the feet on the floor. Keep those shoulders stacked over those hips, okay? Now, let's advance it. We're going to cross one foot in front of the next, but not all the way. So, my right heel is in the middle of my left foot. Now, in ballet, this is referred to as third position. Now, this position isn't used often. It is definitely used more for younger students or if you are a beginner of any age, okay? And you'll see why in a moment, but I'm going to keep it going, guys. If you take this front leg and you just open it straight up to the front, this becomes fourth position. Now, some teachers like an open fourth, which is basically opposite first position. So if you put your feet in first and you take one foot and slide it straight out, there is your open fourth position. Now, I personally like a crossed fourth position, which is opposite fifth position, which we'll get into in one moment. But just know that there are several options in ballet, okay? So whatever your teacher prefers, hopefully they will specify it for you, either an open fourth or a crossed fourth, okay? Now here comes that fifth position, my favorite position. We're gonna take that front foot and we're gonna slide it straight in. So fifth position is a more advanced version for your third position, okay? So here's that third position one more time. It's not quite as crossed Fifth position, we cross it all the way over. So it's a little bit harder, a little bit more advanced. So if you are a beginner, your teacher will probably start you in a third, and then the more comfortable you guys get with this position, you're going to gradually cross that foot over a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, until you're in your fifth position. Okay? So one more time, guys, let's just go over that. Heels together, here's your first position. Tommy to the side, here's your beautiful second position. We point the foot, we're going to cross it halfway. This is your third. We slide it out, cross it over a little bit more for your crossed fourth position, and then we close it back in, boop, and here is your fifth position. All right, guys, let's move on to the next thing. So next we're going to talk about the feet. Now, something that is very, very common in ballet dancers is something called sickling. And trust me, it doesn't even sound like a pretty word, right? No one can make sickling look good. I don't care if you are Misty Copeland, you are not going to make sickling look good, all right? So what does that mean, to sickle the foot? Well, I'm sitting up nice and tall, and what you should be able to do is, again, like I've been saying, draw that straight line all the way down through the center of the knee, through the shin, through the center of the ankle, all the way down through the center of the toes, right? So everything is in a straight line. That's what we want, whether we're in the parallel leg position or the externally rotated position, okay? So a sickled foot, and I'm just gonna open my legs a little bit so I can really exaggerate this for you guys. Sickled foot means the feet go in. Look at that. Blech. No one can make that look good, okay? And it also doesn't feel good, right? So if I were to draw my straight line, right, I can't do it. It kind of goes, it goes in, not cute at all. So what I want you guys to do is practice this at home. Sit up nice and tall, point through the toes, make sure you're getting nice length at the top of the ankles, and I want you to try to separate your big toes, right? It's not gonna be a big movement. It's gonna be a very teeny tiny movement. But what that does is it strengthens a part of your ankle and it helps you to wing your foot, right? So it's okay for those toes to sort of wing out, but we definitely don't want them going in. Not pretty at all, okay? Now, I understand that that may be difficult for some people, that little move right there. It's totally normal, especially if you are a beginner. This is something that you can eventually work up to. So in the meantime, just focus on that straight line and keeping the feet nice and straight. Okay, guys? So again, we don't want this sickled feet, blech. We want either a straight line or those toes are gonna go boop and sort of wing out to the side as best as you can, okay? All right, guys, I'm gonna pop up and I'm gonna demonstrate some beautiful tendus with proper feet, and then some not so beautiful tendus with sickled feet, just so you can really see the difference, okay? All right, so here we are at the bar once again, and I'm just going to show you some proper tendus with beautiful foot alignment and then with sickled feet, just so you can see the difference. We learned so much just from watching. So I'm going to start in my fifth position and I'm going to point my toes to the front. So again, external rotation is coming from the hips. I can draw a straight line all the way down my leg. Kneecaps are facing out to the side. Now, I want you to watch my right foot very carefully. I'm going to go from proper foot alignment to a sickled foot alignment. Are you ready? Brace yourself. Here it comes. Right? See how the line breaks? So I'm really thinking of more of my big toe and less of my baby toe. Yeah? So big toe, and I'm thinking of lifting that heel up, standing up nice and tall, right? Arm up or wherever. Da-da-da-da-da. Yeah? Okay, let's try second position, just so you guys can see the difference. Here's my tendu. Again, external rotation coming from the hips. Kneecaps out to the side. Watch that right foot. Here comes the sickle. Right? Not cute. Does not feel good. So we got to get that heel around, inner thigh around, and I'm thinking of drawing that straight line straight down. Okay, guys? Let's go to the back. It hurts my ankle when I sickle. See, it doesn't feel good, guys, so that's why you gotta point your foot the right way. Let's go behind. So again, I'm going to keep my kneecaps facing out to the side. Here's my beautiful tendu back, and I'm thinking of really just my big toe being on the floor, because if I think of all my toes on the floor in a tendu back, watch what happens. Here it comes. Boop. Right? See that? So you don't want to think of all the toes on the floor in a tendu back. You just want to think about the big toe, knees out to the side, not down to the floor, out to the side. Okay, guys? Woo! All right. Let's move on to fingers and arms. Here we go. All right, guys. So before we talk about our arms, I just want to talk about the hands and the fingers. Yes, believe it or not, it actually matters where your fingers are. Ballet is so detailed. So this is the basic traditional way that most people teach. It may vary depending upon your teacher and which technique or style they like to teach, but this is a pretty basic form of how your fingers should be, okay? So what I want you guys to do is take your middle finger and thumb, and for now, I want you to just touch them. So you're gonna close them together, all right? The pointer finger is sticking up the highest, but there's space between all the fingers. Now what I want you to do is make an inch of a space between your middle finger and your thumb. Okay? So that is the basic shape that we want the fingers. Okay? Now, a lot of people, and as I said earlier in this video, take tension in their upper body. Some people take tension in their shoulders. Some people take tension in their neck. I used to actually take tension in my mouth. I used to do, believe it or not, got rid of that habit, thank goodness. Some people take tension in their fingers, and then all of a sudden, the claws come out, okay? So your fingers should really be soft, but that's a good way to sort of get it going. Middle finger and thumb almost touching, pointers are the highest. Now, don't glue your fingers together. We call this hamburger hands. Can you guess why? Because it looks like I'm holding a hamburger. Not cute, we don't want to do that. Shake out the tension, space between the fingers, middle finger, thumb almost touching, pointers are highest, okay? So now that we have the fingers in place, let's go over all the major arm positions. All right, guys, so let's begin. Arm position number 1 is first position, okay? So it's nice and rounded. In fact, if you touch your belly button and you just go straight out, that's more or less where you want your arms. A lot of people get a little too carried away and they have their first all the way up here. That's way too high, okay? So I would just aim for that belly button, go straight out. Here is your first position, okay? Now, let's talk about opposition because it's just so important. When you're in first, you want to think of lifting your elbows but pushing your shoulders down, okay? Because a lot of people do this with their first. And let me turn to the side so you can really see. See how droopy my elbows are? Okay, that makes you look very weak even if you're not a weak person. So we really want to lift those elbows up, but not lift the shoulders because we don't want that one either, okay? So shoulders down, elbows lifting up, belly button and straight out, and here is your first position, okay? Now, I tell my little ones, it's like you're holding a beach ball. If that beach ball explodes, then it becomes, boop, second position, okay? Now, your shoulders, your elbows, your wrist, and your fingers should not be all in the same line, okay? There's a very slight diagonal going down. So the shoulder is the highest, the elbow a little bit lower, the wrist a little bit lower, and then the fingers are lowest, okay? Again, guys, same thing. You don't want this to happen. This looks very, very weak, okay? So we're lifting up those elbows, but pushing the shoulders down at the same time. Chest is open and wide, neck is nice and long, and we're lifting up through the crown of the head, okay? Now, if we combine those two positions that we just learned, we have one arm in first and one arm in second. This becomes low third. Here's your other low third. Now let's take this arm that's in first and we're going to whoop, we're going to lift it up nice and high. This becomes high third position, okay? Now, let's change. Here's your other high third. Yeah? We're going to take this arm that's in second and bring it straight across. So now we have one arm in first, one arm in, this is a high fifth position, yeah? And this becomes our fourth. Here's our other fourth. Both arms up as if you're framing your face is a high fifth position. This is a very common mistake. So again, even though both arms are up, we have to make sure, whoop, that we're really pushing those shoulders down, okay? Now I'm gonna turn to the side because this is another important point. Your hands should not be directly over your head. They should also not be behind your head, because look what happens to my posture. My back arches, my ribs stick out, my butt sticks out. Not cute, we don't want to be there. It pulls your weight back. It's going to be so hard to do anything, okay? So when your arms are in this high fifth position, they should be a little bit in front of your head. And that way you guys are able to maintain this beautiful posture and nothing will get funky or out of whack, okay? So let's take all those positions. We're gonna go over them one more time. Here we go, guys. We have first position with the feet and the arms. Here's your second position with the feet and the arms. I'm going to cross my foot in front. Here's my low third position, also with my feet in third. Here's my other low third. Here's my high third. Here's my other high third. I'm going to adjust my feet to my fourth position. Here's my fourth position. Changing arms, here's my other fourth. I'm going to close my feet into fifth, and here is my high fifth position. Think about framing the face, hands just a little bit in front of your head. Again, not above the head, not behind the head, right there, and you are good to go. All right, friends, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you learned a lot, and as always, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up so I know you watched it. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask me down below, and I will see you guys in the next Ballet 101 series. Take care of you, and I'll see you in the next one.